Hello, welcome to Julie Schuster Studios, where I am going to lead you through this 40 or so minutes of dynamic yoga. So find a comfortable place on your mat. You can sit up with your legs crossed, or you can come down to your back body. Whatever is comfortable for you. Once you get there, just begin to focus on your breath. Just trace the breath coming in and out through the nose. Start to take in all sensation, sounds around you, the weight and texture of your clothing, how the air feels on the exposed areas of skin. Bring your hands to your heart and begin to search for a word or a short phrase that you can use as an intention for your time on your mat today. It could be words of gratitude, healing, whatever comes to you quickly. And when you're ready, you can come to your back body, lengthen the legs out long, bring your arms down by your sides, lift and spread your toes, spread your fingers wide, pull the low belly in and up. Come back to your breath. And with your next inhale, begin to raise the arms up and overhead. And with your exhale, bring them down by your sides. So as you move through this really easy pattern, connect to your breath. Sync your breath to the movements. Sync your movements to the breath. Keep the low belly pulled in and up, tailbone pressed down. Lower back rib cage pressed down. And make sure you still feel that little bit of space in the low back. So continue moving on your breath, establishing your rhythm. And the next time you exhale, pick your head and shoulders up, reach forward and draw in your right knee. As you inhale, lengthen the leg out long, take your arms back overhead. With the next exhale, bring in the left knee, lift the head and shoulders and reach forward. With the inhale, come back, lengthening everything out, taking your arms overhead. So move like this with your breath, keeping the bandhas in place, the toes lifted and spread, fingers spread wide, belly pulled in. And the next time one knee is drawn in, pause there as your head is lifted. Shoulders are lifted off the floor, arms reaching forward. Keep your face soft. Unclench the jaw. Keep the chin tucked. And as you inhale, take your arms back overhead, lengthen the legs out long. And with your next exhale, bring the other knee in, lift up, reach forward. Always come back to your breath in these moments of stillness and effort. Come back to your intention and search for your edge. Listen to your body, and you'll know when it calls you out. And when you're ready, lengthen the legs out long, take your arms overhead. Place a bend into the knees. Walk the feet out to the outside edges of your mat. Take the arms out into a T with the palms facing down. Pull the low belly in, lift and spread the toes. As you exhale, take your knees to the right and take your gaze to the left. As you inhale, come back through the center And with your next exhale, take the knees to the left and take your gaze to the right. Keep moving like this, again, with your breath, syncing breath and movement. Move slowly so that you can feel everything. The hips opening, the feet against the floor. And the next time your knees are to the right and your gaze is left, pause there. Take the left arm up and overhead and pick up your right foot and place it on your left thigh. You'll feel a little bit more opening here. Coming into stillness. Stay with sensation and stay with your breath. Come back to your intention. And when you're ready, come back through the center and switch sides. So this time knees are to the left. Pick up the left foot, place it on your right thigh, and take the right arm up and overhead. Notice any differences between the two sides. And if you do notice a difference, just notice and let that go. Just let that become part of your experience. Come back through center. Bring your feet to about hips distance apart. Bring your arms down by your sides. Take your arms up and overhead. And with your inhale, lift the hips up toward the ceiling, and then bring your arms slowly back down by your sides. Very slowly bring the hips back down. Take the arms overhead. With your next exhale, bring the arms down, lift the hips up. Inhale, take the hips down and take the arms overhead. So move through this sequence slowly, syncing breath with movement. And moving slowly enough when you bring your hips back down to the floor. Each time, move slowly so that you can feel each vertebrae as it comes down to the floor. And then slowly take the hips up as if you're peeling your back body up off of the floor. Stay rooted down in all four corners of your feet. The next time your hips are lifted, pause there. Press down in the feet and act like you're trying to take your feet apart, away from each other, without actually moving them. And you'll feel that activate the legs even more. Keep pressing down in the arms, lifting up with the hips. Stay with your breath. And when you're ready, you can bring your hips back down. Draw your knees in, wrap your arms around your knees, and just kind of rock from side to side for a moment. Just to release, take a moment of ease. And when you're ready, you can take your feet back down to the floor. Be sure that your feet are tracking underneath your knees. Bring your arms in by your sides and bend the elbows so that the fingertips are pointing toward the ceiling. On your inhale, lift up. Keep the hips lifted. Ground down in the left foot and pick up your right foot off of the floor. Take your right foot back down and pick up your left foot. Then lower down to the floor with the hips. Again, take a moment of ease, take a breath, and just keep moving through this on your breath. Grounding down into one foot and lifting the other while your hips are up and bridge. Try to keep the bandhas in place, the toes lifted and spread, fingers spread wide, belly pulled in. And the next time you have your right foot lifted, pause there. Keep pressing down in the left foot, pressing down in the upper arms. And this is strong. Stay with your breath. And when you're ready, lower the hips back down, lower the right foot back down, and get ready to set up for the other side. So this time press down into the right foot as you lift your hips. Once your hips are lifted, lift the left foot off the floor. Pause here, noticing differences between the two sides again, searching for that edge. And again, this is strong, so really listen to your body. And when you're ready, lower the hips down, bring the foot back down, draw the knees back into your chest, wrap your arms around them, and just rock from side to side to release. And when you're ready, keep the feet up, bring the knees so they're tracking over the hips, bring your arms straight out in front of you, fingertips pointing toward the ceiling, low belly pulled in and up. Make sure you still have the tailbone pressed down. As you inhale, push the right foot forward and take your left arm up and overhead. With your exhale, come back to the center and then switch sides. So move through this sequence on your breath, playing with this as you go along to know what feels best in your body, what feels good today, might not have felt good yesterday, might not feel good tomorrow. So just listen to your body always. Take care of yourself. Also play with the breath here as you push one foot forward and take the opposite arm up and overhead. See what it feels like to move a little bit more slowly than you're used to. And then the next time everything is back in the center where you started, press the thighs together, press the feet together. And as you inhale, push the feet forward and take both arms up and overhead. As you exhale, bring everything back to the center. Keep the bandhas in place. Listen to your body here. If you feel this in the low back, back off. And draw the knees in. Always take a moment of ease whenever you feel like you need it, and then just come back. And when you're pausing again in a pretty strong moment of effort, stay with your breath, listen to your body, search for that edge, and when you have reached that edge, once again, draw the knees in, wrap your arms around your knees, and just rock from side to side. Roll over to your side so that you can come to sitting, and then come to hands and knees. And once you're on hands and knees, just make sure your hands are under your shoulders, knees are under your hips, feet are straight out from your knees. Tops of your feet are pressed down, fingers spread wide, belly pulled in. As you inhale, bring your shoulder blades together on your back. Look slightly forward. As you exhale, push your shoulder blades apart, look back at your legs, and slowly send your hips back to your heels. Come back up on your inhale. Bring the shoulder blades together, look forward. Exhale, look back, push your shoulder blades apart, and send your hips back to your heels. So move like this. In this cat-cow wave on your breath, moving slowly enough so that you're creating your own resistance as you send your hips back and then bring them back up. Pressing down in the tops of the feet, pressing down in the fingers. when you're on hands and knees next, pause there, tuck the toes under, hover the knees above your mat, and then as you exhale, send your hips up and back to downward facing dog. Once you're here in downward facing dog, pause. Keep the knees slightly bent, the tailbone slightly lifted. Keep pressing yourself away from the floor. Keep your face soft. And as you inhale, bring the knees back down, untuck the toes, and send the hips back to the heels. As you inhale, come right back up, tuck the toes under, lift the knees, send the hips up and back to downward facing dog. In downward facing dog, put more weight into your left foot, raise your right leg straight out behind you, and then do the same thing on the other side. Come back through the center, bring the knees down, untuck the toes, and send the hips back to the heels. As you inhale, come back up, lift the hips on the exhale, lift the right leg, lift the left leg parallel to the floor, bring it back down, bring your knees down, untuck your toes, and send your hips back to your heels. So move through this earth salutation using your breath as your guide, setting your pace. Each inhale, you'll lift the right leg back when you're up and downward facing dog. Exhale, bring it back down. Inhale, lift the other leg, bring it back down. Inhale, knees down. Exhale, hips back to the feet. Come back up on your inhale, lift the knees, send the hips up and back with the exhale. So again, move through this sequence, earth salutation, with the addition of the leg lift as you're up in downward facing dog. Just lifting one leg at a time until it's parallel to the floor, and then switching. And when you're ready to pause in downward facing dog, come to that place and begin to move the legs, pedaling the heels on the breath. So as you breathe, doesn't matter if it's in or out, take one heel down and bend the knee of the opposite leg. With the next breath, switch. Do this a few times. Come to stillness, and then walk your hands and feet together. Pause here, letting your head hang heavy. Maybe taking hands to opposite elbows and swaying back and forth really slowly. And then make sure your feet are hips distance apart. Lift and spread the toes. Place the hands at the bottom of the lower leg. As you inhale, lift the head and shoulders to a half point and drag your hands up to the knees. As you exhale, fold back into the legs. So move like this a few times, just getting a feel for coming up to that half point with a straight, strong, flat back. And the next time you're there, in the half forward fold, pause, pull the belly in, take the hips down and back. Make sure you can still see your toes, and as you inhale, lift the head, shoulders, arms framing your ears. Pause here in chair, toes lifted and spread, shoulders are away from your ears. Find a gaze point in front of you. Stay with your breath. Keep the belly pulled in, keep the face soft. And as you exhale, come to standing, bring your arms down and your hands to your heart. As you inhale, take the arms up and overhead. Come up on your tiptoes, come back down. As you exhale, fold back into the legs, into the forward fold. Hips down, come up halfway. With the inhale, lift the head and torso, arms framing your ears. As you exhale, come to standing, arms down and around, hands to your heart. With each inhale, take the arms overhead, come up to your toes, come down, and then fold back into your legs, into the forward fold, hinging at your hips. So move through this half sun salutation, on your breath. Just moving slowly enough so that you can feel the alignment with each phase of this little flow of the half sun. And the next time you come to standing with your hands at your heart, pause there and then bring your hands to your hips. Place more weight into your left foot and draw your right knee up so it's about at hip height. Bring it back down, ground down in the right foot, and as you inhale, bring the left foot up so that the knee is tracking right in front of the hip. Move through this slowly, just making sure to ground down in one foot as you lift the other, just getting a feel for being on one leg. Keep the belly pulled in, toes lifted and spread. And the next time you have your right knee lifted, if it's available, pause there in stillness. Take your arms up and overhead. Find a gaze point. Keep your belly pulled in. Take the right leg down. Take the arms down. Do a little bit of a Tai Chi twist to shake that out. And this time, place more weight into your right foot. And then lift your left leg so that the knee is tracking in front of the hip. As you take your arms overhead, find a gaze point. Keep the belly pulled in. Notice if you feel any difference between the two sides as far as your balance goes. And again, just let that become part of your experience. When you're ready, bring your arms back down, bring your leg down. Tai Chi, twist it out a little bit. Take your arms back to your hands, back to your hips. As you inhale, take your arms up and overhead. As you exhale, come down into chair with your hips down and back, knees bent. Take your hands to your hips. Keep your shoulders pulled back. And staying in chair, place more weight into your left foot and lift the heel of your right foot. And then switch on your breath. So each time you take one foot down, grounding down in that foot, lift the other foot so that the heel peels up off of the floor and just the big toe is touching. And then move through the two sides, playing with your breath, holding a little longer, maybe for a couple of breaths rather than just one. And the next time you feel steady, when you're grounding down in one foot, see if you can lift the opposite foot all the way up off of the floor. You can just hover, you can bring your knee up a little higher, whatever works. And then switch sides. Come to standing. Bring your hands to your heart. As you inhale, take your arms overhead. As you exhale, fold back into your legs, into the forward fold. Moment of ease here. Make sure your feet are hips distance apart again. Send the hips down and back. Lift up through chair on your inhale. And with your arms framing your ears, this time ground down into one foot. As you lift the other off of the floor and bring the knee up a little higher. And then switch sides on the breath. Come to standing, bring your arms down and around, hands to your heart. As you inhale, take your arms up and overhead. As you exhale, fold back into the legs. Send the hips down and back through chair. Lift the torso, arms framing your ears. Ground down in the left foot. Lift the right foot. And then ground down in the right foot and lift the left. Making sure that you are not swaying in the hips at all. Keep the hips level and steady. Pause for a little longer on each side if that feels good. Come to standing, arms down and around, hands to your heart. Shake that out with some Tai Chi twist. And then turn to one long side of your mat. It doesn't matter which side. Just turn to the long side. Step your feet wide apart. Make sure your toes are pointing straight forward, hands on your hips. And just a few times on the breath, come into a half forward fold. And eventually bringing your hands down to the floor. Take your toes out and heels in and move from side to side. Straightening one leg as you bend the knee of the opposite leg. So just opening up the hips here. Come to stillness in the center. Make sure your knees are tracking about over your ankles. Lift and spread your toes. Bring one forearm at a time to each thigh. Spread the fingers wide. Keep your gaze down at your mat. Keep the belly pulled in. Make any adjustments that you need to make. Keep pressing through the forearms, pressing the knees toward the pinky toes. And when you're ready, straighten out your legs. Come into a forward fold. Let the head hang heavy for a moment. And then again, toes out, heels in. Come back into this half fold in horse with the forearms on the thighs. Bring your hands to your hips. Keep the legs as they are in horse. Take your arms up and overhead. And with the exhale, come to standing, hands to your heart. Each inhale, send the hips down and back through horse. Arms overhead, and with each exhale, straighten out the legs. Bring your hands together at your heart. So just think about the element of water as you move through this flow. And then eventually come to stillness in horse, knees tracking over your ankles, arms up overhead. Pause for just a few breaths. Or longer if that's what you feel like you need today. Eventually come to standing, hands to your heart. Turn the toes straight forward, bring the feet together, and just do a few more Tai Chi twists. Bring that to stillness. Come to the front of your mat. As you inhale, take your arms overhead. Exhale, fold back into your legs. Bend the knees enough to get the full palms down on the mat. Step one foot back at a time into downward facing dog. Pause here. Feel everything here. Knees bent, tailbone lifted. Press yourself away from the floor. Keep your face really soft. As you inhale, bring your knees down to your mat. Take your knees out wide, big toes together, and then send your hips back to your heels for wide child's pose. Arms forward, bring your forehead down to your mat. Take a moment of ease here. And then lift your head so that you can see your hands and walk both hands over to your right. Place your head down on the top of your left arm or forehead to the mat or the floor. Take the left shoulder a little closer to the floor. Lift the right one up just slightly. And then walk your hands back through the center and just do the same thing on the other side. So you can keep the arms straight forward, or you can drag this time your left hand back toward your left knee, right shoulder closer to the floor, and then just press yourself away from the floor on the left side so that the left shoulder comes up a little bit. Come back through the center, come back to hands and knees, just to transition over to your back. And once you're on your back body, bend the knees, bring the bottoms of the feet together, and then just take your knees out wide. Take your arms overhead, clasp your hands together, place a bend in the elbows, and just notice this moment of symmetry between the bottom half of your body and the top half. Breathe deeply into the belly. And then pick up your head and shoulders and kind of walk them over to your right, keeping the bottom part of your body exactly where it is. Hips level, knees open. So you'll be in a bit of a lateral bend here over to the right with the head and shoulders and the arms. Come back to your breath here, noticing that little bit of stillness, or a little bit of movement rather, in a moment of stillness. And then when you're ready, you can come back through the center and just keep going to the other side. So head, shoulders, arms over to your left. Again, come back to your breath. Come back to your intention if you are being carried away into the thinking mind. Come back to sensation. Back to noticing your breath. And then come back through the center with the upper body. Bring the knees back together. Keep the knees bent, feet on the floor. Take your right foot and place it on your left thigh. And then draw your left leg in and place your hands at the back of your thigh under your knee. With each inhale, straighten out the left leg. And with each exhale, place a bend back into the knees. Next time your left leg is straight, pause. Just notice the opening of the hips here. Pressing the right knee slightly forward. Come back to your breath. And when you exhale, take the left foot back to the floor. Take your arms out into a T. And with the right foot still on your left thigh, begin to take the legs over to the left, keeping the front body braced. Once your left leg is on the floor, supported by the floor, see if you can reach down with your left hand and place a bind onto your right foot. Look over to your right. Come back through the center, bracing the front body as you do so, and then switch sides. So this time take your left foot to the right thigh. Press the left knee slightly forward, and then draw your right leg in. Place your hands at the back of your thigh underneath the right knee, and on the breath, bend and straighten the right leg this time. So with each inhale, straighten, and with each exhale, bend. We're still keeping the bandhas in place here. And the next time your right leg is straight, pause. And again, come back to noticing differences between the two sides. They might feel completely different, and they might feel exactly the same. Again, just notice. Place a bend in the right knee, take the right foot to the floor, keep the left foot as is. Brace the front body and take the legs over to your right very slowly. Take the gaze to the left, and this time reach down with your right hand and place it on your left foot. Notice the movement in your body that the breath creates here. And when you're ready, come back through the center. Brace the front body to bring your legs back up. Keep your arms out in a T, palms down. Take the feet to the outside edges of your mat and just do a few more windshield wipers. So keep the bandhas in place. And as you exhale, take the knees to one side as you gaze in the opposite direction. With each inhale, come back through the center and just keep moving on your breath. Noticing how this series of windshield wipers feels different or the same as the one that we did at the beginning of practice. And the next time your knees are in the center, just come to stillness, lengthen the legs out long. Just let your feet fall open to the sides, relaxed. Arms by your sides, palms facing up so that the fingers can curl in naturally. And we have come to the end of the practice. So this is a time for Shavasana to digest everything that you've just done. Relax everything. And give yourself, 3 to 5 minutes more if that's what you need today. But just take the time for this last part of your practice just as a moment of stillness, coming back to your intention, maybe coming back to an affirmation that you like, a mantra that resonates with you. And if nothing else, just stay with your breath. And bring your hand, one hand to the belly, one hand to your chest, and just take a really deep, long, complete inhale, letting the belly rise up as much as it needs to, and then begin exhaling a long, deep, complete exhale. And do this a few times, breathe like this a few times. back down to your mat. And then roll to your side. And use your top arm to come to sitting. Come back to the front of your mat. Bring your hands to your heart. It is the light in me that looks out and sees that same light within each one of you. Thank you so much for joining me. Namaste.